It's been an interesting time. As much as I would have loved Essendon to get to the finals, Ramadan has only just finished, so it would have been a bit complicated, and that's certainly something we want to hear about today. But I'm going to hand over to Basher to talk about his journey into elite sport, through what got you through, what supported you, what enabled you to participate, and what were your barriers. So, over to Basher.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I started at the age of 11 until one day I was having a kick out the front of the yard, and my brother back then was he was working at a pizza shop, and he sacrificed his night of work to take me to a club called Spottswood Football Club. And it all started from there without my parents' permission, which we know is a wrong thing to do these days. Everything we should do, we should seek our parents' permission. I'm talking about it as a youngster, when you're not independent. That's not saying money independent at the moment. Yeah, just started at a local club called Spottswood Football Club. I played there for about 3 years, and until one day, my first year, I came home with a bunch of trophies. Obviously, winning the best threes award and that in my first year. I had to approach my parents, and it was the hardest thing to do, basically playing football without permission. Anyway, the reason why they were so strict about this is because my older brothers played sports, and they always got themselves into trouble. And always, just basically neglected their studies. And, with my older brothers and sisters were pretty smart at school. As soon as they got into sport, basically their mind was occupied by just sport and not studies. So my parents thought that was the trend in the family, and they didn't want to give me the opportunity to play sport. But we sat down, we discussed a few things. My older brother, who helped me out a fair bit, and I made a promise with him. If I do well at school, is there a chance to play sport? And we made this promise and come to an agreement. So I played sports for about 3 years at local level, and then I represented Victoria in the national championships at the age of 14 and a half, 15. And that's when the doors of opportunity opened for me as a career. Football was always my dream, to become an AFL footballer. Growing up being a Carlton supporter, I looked up to players like Anthony Koutoufides, Stevenson, Barney, Craig Freeland, people like that, great people who were great on the game, great people on the game. And at the age of 15, I represented Victoria. 16, again Victoria, and that's when my dad became my biggest fan ever. From a person that was really against something in life to become a person that just really admired what I'd done. And the reason why I do give credit to myself, when I get, especially when young people get to sport, is that we've got less time to go out there and cause trouble. You just hit the age of 15, 16, 17, 18, these late teenage years. We've got less time occupied. When you've got not much time to do stuff, you get yourself in trouble. You mix with different people, and find yourself in trouble. So that's all credit is due to my sport. Obviously the support of my parents all the way. Basically, through this, I kept away from all this type of mischief and concentrate on training. But one of the barriers obviously was agreeing, coming to agree with my parents. Another one was basically with my religion, which isn't really a barrier, but basically at the age of 14, 15, to come out and say who you really are, what your beliefs are, is enormous. So I went out and the time I mentioned my religion, and it wasn't really mentioning my religion, it was basically just simple worship acts like praying 5 times a day. It was probably it's tough to say, but I had to come out because I had nowhere to run. Just basically when we went interstate to represent Victoria, we had to room for 2 or 3 days. So I needed a little section to play. I sat down with the whole team and told them who I was and what my faith was, and they respected that like a dozen fight. At the end of the day, they just, the amount of respect I got. But the way you got to look at it is if you respect people around you, they'll respect you the same way, and if not more. So I got that, and then was pretty successful in that area. And then another barrier was injuries. I had a number of injuries from 15 to 18, kept me out for probably played 1 year out of those whole 3 years. But thankfully I got the most out of my football. I kept mentally strong. Being 15, 16, you can get disturbed, especially when your injury puts you out for 6 months, and then you train once, then twice, and you get injured again for another 5 months. Mentally, it gets to you. So thankfully I've stayed mentally strong as well as physically strong, and I've got to where I am now. Purely it's through hard work, discipline and commitment. All credit is due to the support I've had from my parents, family, friends, the extra time I've put into my sport. And at the same time, whilst I was playing for sport, I was doing pretty well at school. That's the promise I always kept my parents. Thankfully I'm still studying at the moment. I'm studying at Victoria University, doing sports administration and marketing. That's really interesting because basically it leads into my field of sports. Sports industry, hopefully you can get a job, because football doesn't give you a guaranteed lifetime of 10 years, 10 to 15 years. So the average footballer these days is 4 years. So that's where you got to look at it. You got to have something to fall back on. And at the age of 19, I don't want to end football at 21, 22 and not have something to fall back on. Very important to continue my studies and get the most out of my football. Hopefully it gives me 10, 15 years, and get the most out of life. That's what you have to plan other things away from football, and that's what I've done, to continue my studies and do really well at school, as well as my football. But hopefully, future, there's positive, there's a positive light out there for my future, and no doubt I'll be 100% committed to my football and get the most out of my football, because hopefully this, coming out of football will make me a better person, and no doubt be a role model for the community. I'm not going to talk for too long. I just want to open up for a few questions. If you guys want to know a few more.
Yeah, sure. It's a great story. But when you went down to spots with your coach down there, that go, did it take a while for them to understand what you were about, and your obligation towards your religion, and your situation with your parents didn't know?
At the age of 11, religion wasn't a problem, because I'd get away with it, because I could pray before I'd go. And basically at the age of 11, that's when I started to. At the age of 10 is when I started praying. So I was a bit on and off for the first year or two. So from a religion point of view, I wasn't too wild on it. But from my parents' perspective, the coaches understood. They didn't want to give up their best player. I'm not saying it, but at the age of 11 I was. I got there. I remember the first training session we had at the taxi match. The first 5-10 minutes, we talked to 5 or 6 guys in the press match. And they said, no, you're not going nowhere. Even if I have to pick you up every training session, every match. And that's what happened. The coach did pick me up every training session, right behind my friend's back, and did this. So I got the most out of my football. And thankfully I started then, because I would have never started, if it wasn't for my brother taking me. And that's a barrier you've got to take. It's a risk you've got to take in life.